Force, of course, showing his Zerglings, the slight amount of Roaches into Broodlords, of course, with a couple of Infestors here and there.
Yep.
And then we had, who did he play after that? Now I'm blinking.
Who did Harstem play?
Yeah, who did Harstem play?
After who?
After Dark Force.
Oh, after Dark Force, he beat Revolver.
Yeah, Revolver, that's right. Revolver is... They think it's in control.
Lol.
Revolver is definitely a player that focused on getting Zerglings and Infestors. That's it. So Slivko, definitely, I've seen him in his EVPs go more Roach-centric builds rather than relying on Zerglings. It is kind of the 2 months, 3 months ago metagame.
It's a little bit.
There.
It's a little bit outdated. A lot of people have kind of
Yeah.
figured out the Mass Roach, but now people have started using Mass Roach as a build that you can kind of switch to if you need to, because you get that Roach Warren for safety early on if you feel like they're going for gateway pressure kind of thing. And then you see, well, you know, actually, I think I can just kill them with Mass Roach if they don't have enough gas counts. Protoss players have been really trying to maximize their gas usage by doing things like Stargate into Immortal kind of thing, or even like DTs into Immortals, but you can't get enough Immortals out to make yourself safe against Mass Roach. So you see players use that Mass Roach build as kind of a way like, oh, I can just kill you with this because you didn't do enough damage.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So it's not like a thing where I can do it from the beginning and I can kind of rush Roaches blindly when Protoss has 3, 4, 5 Immortals with like 12 sentries, and he's like, well, LOL, you're not going to do anything.
Exactly. And just to let you know, the reason why we don't see Roaches much anymore is because it actually costs gas, which is crazy, right? Like, it's only 25 gas, but it adds up over
Rotterdam would disagree.
40.
He told me the other day, he's like, guess what? I found out Zerg has a really cool unit called the Siege Tank. It costs 75 minerals and 25 gas. I'm like, wow.
So bitter,
so
man.
angry.
So bitter.
He's like,
But honestly, that's the main reason. The Roaches do cost gas. It actually takes away from your Infestor count, your lair tech, a lot of different things, a slew of different things. But Zerglings, you have a lot more malleability with even your army composition. You can get additional Roaches plus your Zerglings. You can also switch over to upgrades if you see your opponent isn't attacking. You can switch over to Hive Tech a lot faster. You could switch to Mutas. Mutas are actually really, really powerful offensively to keep your opponent inside his or her base. I think all of these factors are leading to why we're seeing Zerglings over Roaches.
yeah, and you know, like getting an early metabolic boost is also really helpful if you need to hold off, again, very, very early pressure timings. And overall, I think people are starting to realize the utility of Zerglings if you can capitalize on the Immortal type of pushes rather than the Colossus pushes, because Zerglings just get eaten alive. And that's honestly why some Protosses, I feel like they've given up some of those early times. They kind of pressure with Stargate while controlling the map and take a third base. That's kind of what Harstem's doing in an indirect way when he's not pushing for a 2 base all-in. Now, Harstem, I want to kind of direct that attention back to him because we've been talking a lot about Zerg builds, but Harstem's the one who kind of been mixing things up. He's been going for Stargate play, and again, because he doesn't have a pylon in his main and he's kind of forcing the wall off, he might drop a really quick tech by his natural again. I want to see if Slivko's going to scout it and how he's going to respond to it if Harstem chooses that route.
Yeah, that's kind of the trouble of going this type of wall off right away. Of course, you don't have a lot of pylons to actually access your main base. And a good Zerg will actually keep track of where all the pylons are, because you have to make sure you don't want to lose to some sort of proxy. Proxy Stargates have actually been, you know, I wouldn't say so common, but they've existed. And I've seen that a lot more. Maybe, you know, 5% or... that's a little high. Maybe 4 or 5% of builds are actually double proxy Stargates. So that's something to keep in mind. Really keep track of these pylons to make sure your opponent is doing exactly what they need to be doing.
Look at this. Harstem actually delays his Robo pretty significantly because he had, I think, like 250 gas, and I was really curious what he was using it for. Maybe for an upgrade in a tech, but instead chooses to drop a little bit of a later Robo, just, I guess, in an opt to switch things up slightly. Now, you can see that Slivko has just pretty much been doing everything pretty standard, getting out a few more Zerglings just for security, getting, I guess he spent 5 larvae, but now has to really just shut down the scouting Zealot. The Zealot just to see what really Slivko has, but isn't really able to do anything. Slivko, of course, dropping the Roach Warren, like you said, just seems to be more of a Roach-based player, but finally teching up to Hive, or sorry, to Lair at a pretty standard time, 7 minutes. So we see pretty standard builds out of Slivko. No reaction out of him, even though he scouts double gas at the natural.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see, are we going to see like War Prison play coming out from Harstem, or is it just going to be some sort of immortal into a third base? Now we could see, of course, 2-base pressure, but the standard is to get a third base really, really quickly. And this is right now the power of Metabolic Boost. I mean, if you have Metabolic Boost already making, and well, actually more so than Slivko is right now. But if you have Metabolic Boost going and it's almost finished, you can actually punish really fast thirds like this. 8-minute bases are really, really fast, and you have no pressure in the beginning stages. You could have seen that from no +1 really, really early on. Then you would have been able to take advantage of this. But Slivko, of course, going back to his roots, relying on roaches, and look at that, putting down a 4th base in reaction. So he's not going to try to put pressure on this third base whatsoever.
Yeah, and it's a pretty quick third base from Harstem. We were talking earlier about, you know, Protoss taking a 6-7 minutes third base, and really trying to get, again, that gas count super high so you can immediately start teching really hard. You're really safe because you can get a good sentry count. You can see Harstem placing that robotics bay, another forge, and a twilight count to talk about being greedy. But at the same time, so is Slivko. He's getting 4th base. He has a good drone count, a very good drone count, and he's also getting a slew of upgrades.
Now you need to get that robotics bay up ASAP. Once you see that infestation pit, you don't want to be caught off guard without Colossus, and you're up against infestors with fungal growth and infested Terrans. Infested Terrans are actually great ways of dealing with immortal armies. It sounds kind of weird, but they can obviously dodge the force fields pretty easily, and they take only 20 damage instead of the 50 damage, which is ever so helpful. Yeah. They're like ranged Zerglings. It's
and
awesome.
Their DPS is phenomenal.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah, the fact that they have 2 more damage than the Unstim Marine is pretty good. You can see that, yeah, like Slivko gonna get the first few infestors out, but after that, I mean, there's nothing really stopping Slivko from being able to go up to Hive Tech if he really wants to. Now, some Zergs, you know, they try to go for quick Hive Tech, but they kind of punish themselves without the gas counts because they go so infestor heavy early on. But I'm curious to see how Slivko's going to react, because at this point on, he has to play very cautious. You know, is Harstem going to go for that pre-Hive push? Is he going to go for that, like, 180 supply worth of just incredible amount of Stalkers and Colossus and a couple of Immortals sprinkled in?
I think it's actually going to be before 180. I don't think he can get there by the time Greater Spire actually hits. You can see Hive and Spire is going to start at the same time, and he's still probing, which tells me that
a second robo too.
He really does have the capabilities of doing any pushes super, you know, efficiently against some sort of Hive timing. And this really shows actually Slivko's Slivko's understanding of really fast third bases. Really, really awesome. Yeah. But we'll see if Harstem actually pushes out. I think he'll be around 150 supply, actually, if he wants to push out here. He'll be with these 2 Colossus that are incoming. That'll put him at a total of, how many? 4? 3. 3 Colossus total. But he does have to push pretty soon because the Infestor count is already starting. The Hive is almost finished. Spire is almost finished. And once that Greater Spire hits, I mean, that is very, very scary to be having Colossus out, a lot of Colossus out, on double Robotech and not switched over completely, not even have a Stargate up to actually deal with any count of Broodlords.
You know what, Andre? You know what, Andre? He doesn't know anything, really, because his Observer's kind of been inactive. Normally, Harstem's really good with his scouting, with his Phoenixes, with his Observers, and he did scout the layer timing of Zerg. He doesn't know the 4th base. He doesn't see the Hive. In fact, he doesn't see pretty much anything. Really, so he's kind of playing a little bit too passive for my tastes, but and he's already started +3, and I guess he might wait for +3 to really activate before he's able to engage, because Harstem's playing very systematically, but Slivko will be already prepared. He's already starting to make his Spinecrawler wall because he senses a push should be coming, but there really is no push at the moment.
The push should actually start right now. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, the push should be coming.
It should be coming, yes. 13 minutes in, and look at this. Slivko is taking an aggressive stance. Now, I do believe this is just to actually scare the Protoss into playing a lot more defensive behind this. He's actually going for, obviously, his Broodlords and taking a 5th base. Really, really amazing play, but he can be, I think, scared in this position. You have to be so careful because, obviously, if you get caught out of position, you're dead. Like, that's all your defensive army, and they're just going to roll in. You have to rely on Broodlords, but you need that Broodlord Infestor combination if you want to be successful. So protect those Infestors, Slivko. And look at that, he's just going to back up, denying space because Protoss still needs to push out to try to take the map and then prepare against any potential all-ins or counter all-ins.
Now, it's not impossible for Harstem to make this push work, because he is moving out slightly before that maxed area, but of course he just warps in Stalkers as he gets closer and closer. It is possible for him to still kill this army if he's able to catch the Infestors, if he can blink under the Broodlords. But look at this Spinecrawler wall. It's just going to be so intimidating for the Stalkers to even approach the Broodlords as long as they take a good post by it. And now Harstem sees a huge mass of Spinecrawlers. Man, am I calling it Sunkens? But
You're good, man.
The Sunken, or oh god, Spinecrawlers are really good.
Everybody knows
Sunkens were good too,
actually. Sunkens were 10 times better. Did you know they dealt 40 damage?
Yeah, and they attacked faster. Right?
Yeah.
But, yeah,
it was absolutely
insane.
ridiculous.
But of course, you have to make a creep colony before you get there. So.
And did you know, like, there was a bug where you can actually make a Sunken Crawler have the same range as a siege tank?
What?
No joke. No joke.
That's insane. That would be so helpful because the Spinecrawler goes to attack the Colossus at this point. But no, you can see that Harstem's really forcing himself kind of an awkward position. No force fields to prevent the Infestors or trap them from really engaging. The Fungal's really whittling down the Protoss army. Harstem going for a huge push here. Reinforcements of Stalkers that are not there with the army. Where is his full-out protection for the Colossus? But you can see the Colossus still adding a good amount of DPS, pretty much killing the Broodlings instantaneously, so the initial impact is pretty much been thwarted. You can see the Infestors locking down the Stalkers. Is going to get very tight, but Harstem's losing all of his Colossus at this point. The Zergers are flanking from a great position. The reinforcements from Slivko is just too much, and the Protoss army gets completely decimated. GG, well played.
Well played.
And Harstem complimenting Slivko in two ways, saying good game, well played, and Iron Man.
Yeah, that's exactly, I mean, this is exactly what I was talking about. 180 supply, that's exactly where he hit, and then he tried to actually deal with that potential hive timing or whatever he was trying to do. That's actually supposed to hit before Broodlords, but if you scout it out, which he didn't scout out the hive timing, he should have known as soon as Greater Spire finishes, as soon as Greater Spire starts, that's kind of where you should actually be pushing from there on. He went, I think, 30 supply too late, which is about a minute over where he's supposed to go. It's about 15 units for your gateway army. If you're at 8 units or 8 gateways, that's 2 rounds. You want to be hitting at least a minute before that, and that would have been where the Broodlords weren't even ready yet. It's just Zergling Infestor, which you can clear up very easily with 3 Colossus. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get there. And you can just see it's like a light switch. Zerg just becomes so much more efficient once they hit that Broodlord tech behind that Spinecrawler wall. You are not killing them.
Sounds good to me, and we're going to go ahead and go to commercial break. But when we come back, we'll have Mayrazor, a Grandmaster Zerg, face off against Slivko. It'll be ZVZ. We'll find out what happens after this break.